Hey everybody, what is up? Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whenever you watch this video. Thank you so much for checking it out. Appreciate it. Appreciate all the new subscribers. Really appreciate it. So let's jump into it. So I got a question or a comment, and I understand the tone, and I'm assuming I understand the tone and the way that it was framed and all that. So I'm up for the challenge. Now, normally, obviously, I try to only speak about police stuff on my LMH Consulting Services channel, but the question was asked here, and I'll answer it. So let's get into it about the police and you. So first thing we need to understand, first of all, I appreciate the comments, and questions, and all that. So keep them coming. So let's talk about the police and you, right? The first thing is, as a black man, I understand what it's like to be black, and I think that a lot of people don't think that black police officers. I think that people don't think that black police officers know what it is to be black, or have forgotten their roots somehow, or they don't care about the community. And I joined different organizations, the Guardians, national organization of black law enforcement executives, Noble, right? And these organizations not only fight for equity within law enforcement, right? Make sure that we're being treated the same, but we also do charitable events for the community. Also do charitable events for the community. So we care. I coached for a number of years because I cared. I know other police officers, other black police officers who did the same thing. They coach, they step up because they care, because they're actually engaged in the community. And it's unfortunate because the black community has suffered since the since civil rights. In that, after civil rights, the black professionals left the black community, and that's teachers, that's they had firefighters, police officers, black doctors, dentists, and all that. Right, we were all segregated into one community. And once those restrictions were lifted, because we wanted to do better, it wasn't because we wanted to be around so-called quote unquote be around white people. It was because we wanted to bring our children up in the best communities and away from the riffraff. And so that's the first thing that I want to put out there. Second thing is, continue on that same line, is if you want to avoid the police and you have to avoid being riffraff. You have to avoid being riffraff and avoid hanging around riffraff. Now, the police departments and police and all that there was two purposes of the police department. First, it was to safeguard crime and all that, or try to catch criminals. And then it was really to enforce. It was really to enforce segregation, right? From all these different populations were designed. We're not supposed to mix and mingle, right? So the police departments were there to keep in particular, black people on one side of the tracks, one side of the bridge, whatever. And when you crossed it, then you crossed with them. So we're still trying to root out the remnants of those types of philosophies. I think we've come a long way. As I record this, is 2024. I think we've come a long way, and I think that anyone who doesn't want to acknowledge that is just being deliberately deceptive. I think we have certainly done a lot to do something about those types of philosophies. But in the meantime, what you have to do is you have to be around people who are positive and in the right place at the right time, right? So as an officer, right, particularly when I worked the midnight shift, probably Thursday night, Friday night, Saturday night, there were bars that were open, and across the city. I was policing in a city, not a small town. It wasn't as big as New York or anything, but it was a fairly large city, and we had fights at certain clubs, certain night bars, and etc. And those bars were mostly us. They were mostly us. And it was just sad to see, as I was one of the few black police officers there for a long time on the midnight shift for a long time. And it was like, okay, we got to go over to this bar and break up the crowd. As soon as the crowd would get out the bar, we can't let them mill around and stand around, because if we did, that's when fights, and shootouts would happen. So in order to save us some paperwork and save obviously people's lives and all that, right? We had to make sure that you get out the bar. Hey, listen, you got to go get in your car and get out and leave, right? That's why we did what we did. So, you can't be around those types of environments. It's unfortunate, because we want to have a good time. We want to be in places where things are going correctly, but we got to be around places that are doing things correctly. I talked about my other channel. I talked about this judge who's, I want to say, in Fulton County, and she was just kicked off the bench. She had her credentials taken for being a judge, or at least that was a recommendation. And one of the final straws for her, she was already facing all types of corruption charges, and they kicked her off. Finally, they kicked her off the court after she was arrested. Now, I don't know if it's part of it, but I got to imagine it played a part into it. She was at a club. Same thing I just talked about, people getting rowdy in the parking lot. And then she puts her hands on a police officer who's trying to get people to get in their cars and leaves. You're a judge. You get a couple of nips in you. You start thinking that you're bigger and badder than who you are and what you are. And then you're going to, reject the authority of a police officer, and you get in all that. So listen, this is it. You got to watch your surroundings, who you're with, and all that. Let me finish off with, not finish off, but let me continue on with the vein of watching your own attitude. Listen, your own attitude is what attracts our own attitude is what attracts the police. Now, I talked before about they were designed to watch, monitor, control the black population. Absolutely true. But part of that reasoning is because after slavery and even during Jim Crow, they didn't think we were smart enough to govern ourselves, so they thought that we had to be controlled. This is all in literature, right? They didn't think that black people were smart enough to be free, be citizens, can't vote, can't give them the right to vote because they don't know what they're doing. So you got to control these populations, and that they're inherently violent. Particular men, but all of them are inherently violent. They don't know what they're doing, so we gotta patrol them and control them. Fast forward to all these different situations. I watched a speech by Malcolm X one time. He said, we need a new hospital built in Harlem because black folks tend to do a lot of stabbing of each other. Malcolm X said this. The fights that I saw in my own city, this is you can look at crime statistics and all this kind of stuff. And I'm not saying that we're inherently this way. I'm not saying that. But I am saying we have to change our psychology. Change our psychology and then change our sociology, how we relate to one to another. And when we don't do this, then we start to enter into these problems. So we have to change the way that we think and process life. I talked about the judge who was messed up. Listen, I went to an event the other day. And it was there's a lady who's running for Congress. I went to an event. Lady running for Congress. Paid event. Just obviously supporting her in her endeavor for Congress. And they're doing a question and answer session, and this woman she was sitting there when she said it, but she says, I invited other people, who's not a supporter, and I wanted to have a discussion. Why would you invite somebody else? This is at somebody's house. This isn't at a park or a venue or a debate. Why would you invite someone who's not a financial supporter of this woman who's running for Congress? It's at her house. You're coming to this. This is not an event. This is not that type of venue. Dave Chappelle, did a skit about Rick James, right? Remember that Rick James skit? And he's talking about, F your couch. I think that a lot of us just operate with that philosophy. I don't care about your. I don't care about your house. I don't care about your. I don't care about your. Um, um, I don't care about your employment. I don't care. There was a viral video over the weekend of a dude, of a father getting into a stepfather's face at a barber shop. You know, that man has nothing to lose. The father who was getting in the man's face had nothing to lose. Didn't care about his kids' mentality, psychology, how he was growing up. He didn't care about the place of employment. So you gotta stay away from these types of people. I'm talking about how to stay away from the police. Listen, I've been to those scenes where the place got aired out because people don't know how to control themselves. Because people didn't know how to act. I've been at those scenes. So, listen, I'm saying we have to learn how to act, conduct ourselves, control ourselves. Whether you're a politician, whether you are a judge, whether you are a parent, whether you are a woman who has been crossed at a hair salon, wig store, you got to learn how to act. You got to learn how to act. And I don't know, that is something I don't think that we really understand to the fullest at all times. But we got to learn how to act. Somebody's at my front door here. All right, so we got to learn how to act, and then we got to be, remember the song a few years ago, Riding Dirty and stuff, man. So you can't be out here riding dirty. You cannot be out here riding dirty. Your car's not registered, and then you are, wondering why the police are stopping you and all that. And I have a problem with the registration stuff. I really do. I think it's another tax, and I think it's unfair that it's so high and all that. And I think that we all really ought to show a lot more mercy than we do. I don't have I have a big problem with all that, the taxes and insurance and stuff. I have a problem with that because I think that it's another tax, and it's a tax to be in the middle class, right? Taxing the poor, right? You trying to, you get a single mother who's got a couple of kids. She's got to make a decision about, how much gas she's going to put in the car. She's got to make a decision about food she's going to buy for her kids. She's got to make a decision about paying these different registration and insurance bills in order to go to work. It's a problem. It's a problem that I do not agree with. I didn't like it as a police officer, and I know as a police officer, I would have discussions about this, like, man, and they would like to pile stuff on, right? Sometimes it's not like we got paid per ticket or anything, or got a percentage of what was. I'm like, why are you piling this on? She got 2 kids in the back seat, didn't even own seatbelts. That's a $85 fine for each kid. It's ridiculous, man. It's ridiculous. I have a whole issue with all that craziness, right? I think that that's bad policing. I think it's bad policing. I think it's bad public relations. I think it's bad. But so you gotta be riding clean, be in the right places, the right time, stay away from problematic people. And I brought up the 2 scenarios about the one with the politician's house versus the stepfather because it's attitude, right? Now, at the politician's house, like, we're all like, what are you talking about? Why would you even invite somebody who's like that? Why would you invite them to this lady's house? Why would you think that that's okay? And some people don't realize that could have caused a problem. And then, of course, the barber, right? He doesn't realize that. I mean, the barber shop incident. That guy doesn't care. He don't care about the police. He don't care about your life, his job that he could lose. He don't care about putting you in the ground. He don't care about the other patrons that were in the. He don't care. So this is why, going back to people leaving the black community, this is why they left. They left because they got to get their family away from people like this. You got to get their family away, because these people will shoot you, stab you. They will maim you. They will hurt you. They would get you fired. They will, you will have your name in the paper. All this different type of stuff, man. These people do not, and you cannot be around that, right? Particularly if you're a professional individual. The more professional you are, the higher up the standards of living that you have to live. That's why it was such a big deal about that, about about police officers when they get arrested, or politicians when they get arrested, or the judge that I mentioned. Your life becomes a spotlight, and you don't want to lose your stuff, right? The more stuff you have, the more you have to lose. You don't want to lose it. So watch the company that you keep. Watch your psychology and how you're interacting. Make sure you're riding clean and all that kind of stuff, right? And then finally, let me just say, when you are in a situation, even if you feel as if you are being wronged, even if you feel you are being wronged by the police, do not fight with them. You take down their name, their badge numbers, you videotape from your phone, you get their car numbers, you remember the date, the time, the location, the car numbers, and you document as much as possible the incidents that is occurring, right? To get physical description of the officer. Did he have a beard? Did he? How tall approximately was he? Blonde hair, black guy, Hispanic, whatever. Get as much detail as you can, and then file a complaint. Do not fight with the police. Do not fight with the police. If I didn't say it, let me say this. Okay, so before I forget it, do not fight with the police, right? I know that there's been some controversial shootings, and I'm thinking about the airman shooting that was just about a month or two ago or so, in all that. And I know that was a tragic incident where a guy answers the door, the airman answers the door with his gun in his hand, and they end up firing the officer. To my knowledge, charges have not been filed yet. Even if charges are filed, I don't think he'll be convicted, and I think he'll eventually get his job back. I really do, because it's a whole different thing I covered in another channel. But so those are the things about the police and you. So be at the right place at the right time. If you want to go out, make sure you go into places that are not known for being problematic and troublesome. Don't hang around troublesome people, whether they're politicians, whether they are hooligans. Don't be around those type of people. Don't be in their places. There are some places like I would just kind of go chill out, whatever, speed there for an hour, kind of mix and mingle, and then I'm out. Then I'm out. I told you I'm not, I don't like drama. People start talking. Okay, it's time to go. Because eventually that stuff's going to pop off. Be clean and do the right thing, right? Don't be putting if you got a nice stuff going on, you got to do things the right way. And I don't like all of it either. We all don't like this. I got to put an addition on my house, so I got to go to the city hall and all this kind of crazy stuff, man. I had to put new windows. I had to put new bay windows in my house because my other ones were falling apart. So I had a contractor, and they did all the paperwork for me. Put bay windows in your house. You gotta go tell City Hall. You gotta do that. I mean, it's not like I'm running new electricity that could possibly burn down my neighborhood, or new gas pipes that could blow up my house and blow up neighbor's house. This is putting new windows in. So I get it, man. But this is what you gotta do. This is the game you gotta play as long as you live here in the United States. So do the right thing at the right time. Stay away from hooligan people, and all that. And I think that, and if you get in trouble, take my advice about not fighting. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. You're not going to win. You're not going to win. You're not going to win. You might win in court. You might win a couple of months later, but you have to ask yourself, is a risk the fight? Is a risk going through what you're going through in order to get what you think that you want? So I just wanted to say that. That's my thoughts about you and the police and you. So let me know your thoughts, your opinions. Make sure you hit that like button. If there's anything else you want me to talk about, I'd be more than glad to talk about. I do want to get back to making sure that you're the best version of yourself and all that. So I got a lot more stuff to cover. A lot of things come up that I want to talk about. So take it easy, y'all.